Joanna, Maxine, and Dr. Claire Dale. Yes? Yes. Thank you very much. We can expect more councillors to be filtering into the room, but we do have councillors online. Thank you.
Kia ora koutou, ko Joanna Maskell tōku ingoa. I'm a Principal Policy Advisor with Community and Social Policy, and I'm here to present the first annual progress report for Tāmaki Makaurau Tau Āwhi Kaumātua Mahiri Mahi, the Age-Friendly Auckland Action Plan. Sitting next to me is Maxine Styling, the chairperson of Whakamana Ki Te Ao, the Age-Friendly Auckland Implementation Rōpū, and she'll be joining me in the presentation to speak about the work of the implementation rōpū. I'd also like to acknowledge Dr. Claire Dale, who you met earlier today, the co-chair of the Auckland Council Seniors Advisory Panel, who are the kaitiaki of this plan, and of course, Senior Policy Manager Liz Civil. Let's move to the next slide. So, the Age-Friendly Auckland Action Plan is a region-wide cross-sector plan to improve the well-being of older Aucklanders. It was developed after engagement with over 5,000 Aucklanders of all ages and backgrounds, and it sets out Council's commitment to create a region that supports the well-being of older people. The action plan is based on the WHO age-friendly framework and also the Te Whare Tapawhā Māori Wellbeing Model. There are the 10 domain areas that you can see there that provide direction for council, CCOs and age sector organisations to deliver improved wellbeing outcomes for older Aucklanders. The plan was adopted by the governing body in November 2021. I'll now hand over to the chair of the Age-Friendly Implementation Rōpū to speak briefly about the work of the rōpū.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. My name is Maxine Styling, and I'm the Tenancy Quality Manager for Homaru Housing, which is affordable housing for independent living for the over 65 community around the Auckland area. And I've been doing this position for 2.5 years. I became the chair of Te Rōpū Whakamana Ki Te Ao 10 months ago, and I've enjoyed absolutely every minute of it. This has been one of my best decisions I have ever made. Age-Friendly Auckland is unique. It's a cross-sector plan with age sector community organisations and government responsible for delivering actions as well as council. It was agreed that there needed to be a cross-agency implementation group to have leadership and oversight of the action plan in question. Te Rōpū was established in 2022 to facilitate information sharing and learnings as well as to enable collaboration and collective action. This became very evident when we were in Cyclone Gabrielle and the responses that we took to support one another from within the rōpū. Te Rōpū comprises of representatives from across the council whānau and diverse representatives of the aged care sector. As a rōpū, we've worked together and supported Auckland Council to become a member of the World Health Organisation Age-Friendly Network and Cities and Communities in 2022 that I'm extremely proud of. Te Rōpū also organised its inaugural age-friendly symposium that was extremely successful. It was lovely to see over 130 people there that day that absolutely enjoyed every minute, and the feedback was fantastic. In 2023, we reflected on how the symposium had gone and how to keep up the progress and momentum with the plan. Therefore, we decided to go ahead with face-to-face HUIs because it was much better to get people in a room and be able to discuss over a cup of tea and a piece of cake how we were going to move forward and collaborate with each other. And it was one of the most effective things we've done. In celebration of this year, we've had 3 successful events, one with the Health and Disability Commission, Caroline Cooper, to help provide feedback about priorities for the Aged Care Commissioner. The second one was around AT and the options for the older Aucklanders, which included discussions around total mobility cards and also extra accessibility issues that they found. And finally, on the housing option for older people, which I was very happy to hold in Otara Court. And there was over 40 people there that day for the meeting, and they came for morning tea, which was great. So we're now organising, and in the process of organising, our second age-friendly Auckland Symposium to bring together people, government and age sector together on the 1st of November of this year. And Carolyn Cooper will be our main speaker, and we've got a panel of older Aucklanders in the afternoon that will be doing question and answer sessions, and I'm really pleased to be chair. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thank you, Maxine. So I'll now move into a brief overview of the findings and recommendations from the annual report. Under the 10 domains of the action plan, we have 106 actions. 46 of those actions are delivered by NGOs and government, with 60 being delivered by council whānau. Staff undertook surveys and interviews with all of those action holders to hear about the progress, and the results show that at least 70% of the actions are underway and progressing well. This slide gives a more detailed breakdown of where the progress is occurring. The most progress has been made in the domains of respect and social inclusion and communication and information. There's less progress that has been made in housing and te tau, the natural and built environment. The report highlights some of the notable successes. In particular, there are 5 case studies in Attachment A to the annual report, highlighting some of the great work that has happened across the region. Those include the Digital Seniors Pilot, which was supported by 3 local boards on the North Shore, the building of kaumātua housing at the Papakura Marae, supported by the Papakura Local Board, research in a partnership between Haumaru Housing and Auckland University around the optimum temperatures for older people living in their Wilshire Village apartment, and the success of Age Concerned Social Connector model, helping older people access companionship and social support across Tāmaki. There's also been some great work across the council whānau, including AT's introduction of the +1 bus scheme, which allows people who require a support person to travel on a bus, for that person to travel for free, and some great work in our local boards, including the Māngere Otahuhu Local Board, who've developed their own age-friendly plan, and the Manurewa Local Board, who've developed an age-friendly services directory. So there's more of that information in the annual report. So through the work of Te Rōpū and our surveys and interviews, we had some key lessons that we've detailed in the annual report. Relationships and connections are really critical to driving the success of this plan. The value that's created from those relationships was evident in the way that the Rōpū members were able to work together to support older Aucklanders during the extreme weather events we had recently. And we support continuing to build those connections in the sector. And that will be an ongoing role for Te Rōpū, but we also acknowledge that a dedicated resource to support greater sector connection and collaboration would be useful. Keeping the connections is really important for creating opportunities for sector partnership and collective action as well. Doing this well is time and resource intensive, so exploring how this can be done more effectively will be valuable. Council, government and sector relationships could also be strengthened to progress the action plan. And again, that was a key finding from our partners in response to the recent extreme weather events. And finally, we found that more specific and measurable actions will make the monitoring of this plan easier and more effective. Actions in the plan were developed by council teams and age sector partners at the time and included a mix of ongoing business as usual as well as some new initiatives. So a consideration for the future would be having fewer but more specific strategic and measurable actions, and we can look at that as part of the 3-year review of this plan, which will come up at the end of next year. So in terms of our next steps and recommendations, just to share the findings with the relevant parties, including the Auckland Emergency Management and Flood Recovery Office around those specific findings about supporting older people, investigating best practice flood preparedness for older people. We know that some of the regional councils around New Zealand have also done some work in this area, and to investigate whether there's the potential to secure more resources to support the sector by talking to our central government partners. So that's all that I have in terms of my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions about the report.
Thank you, Joanna, and thank you too. Maxine, you gave some really good examples of participative democracy and how we can work with partners like you to make that happen. Thank you. Are there any, well, who would like to move this item? I will. Who would like to second? Councillor Foley. Are there any questions? Question? Mayor Brown.
Same question as last time. I mean, there are no, when you go, you've got pages about the impact, the Maori impact statement, the local impact statement, the climate expectation, 3 lines on financial implications saying there are none. I find it hard to believe that what you're doing has no cost or implications financially to us. And I want to know what those implications are. If there are really no costs at all, and I find that very hard to believe as well. And then I see that you're going to talk to the government about this. Well, I don't know what you're going to say to them, but clearly we're going to be talking to the government about a city plan and a few other things. So I'd like to know what it is you're going to be saying to the government, because they're certainly going to be talking to me. You only have to listen to the radio. They're all promising to do it. So I want to know what are you going to say? What implications are you going to say? There's no financial implications in anything to do with old people around here or planning environment and whatever. I find that a bit hard to believe. So those are the questions. What are you going to say, and why are there really, really, really no financial implications? Which is good news, because you're obviously working for nothing, so you're volunteers. That's good news. Thanks very much for volunteering. I'd like to thank that right now.
Thank you for your question, Mr Mayor. In terms of what I would be talking to the government about, it's just on that particular point around the possibility of working together to coordinate the aged sector and whether there's a ability for them to assist with funding for that. So it would be a specific conversation perhaps with partners like the Office for Seniors or regional MSD in this area. And in terms of some of that work is happening through the flood response already with the community connector model. I've been advised that they will have a specific community connector for older people that they're creating at the moment, so it's just continuing to have those kind of discussions. In terms of cost, I think similar to the previous item, this is an existing strategy, so it's just discussing the cost of continuing to have the strategy rather than whether or not council will fund any services for older people through the LTP.
Well, that's better than what was written down, but in terms of just having a strategy, we've got 300 of them. If each one of them costs 150 grand with a couple of staff on it, or 200 grand even like that, that's quickly $6 million. And so this is why we're asking these questions, because it was exposed to us yesterday, there's 300 emergency, we pull up, we've got 300 unfunded strategies, and we probably have a climate change and a climate crisis. We've definitely got a financial one. So that's why I'm asking you. Don't feel picked on. It's just as a result of this, I ask everybody, we'll start getting financial implications treated a bit more seriously than what they are. That's right.
Through the chair, if I can respond, look, I absolutely appreciate your questions, and they're fair enough, and so we're not defensive about that at all. It's great, happy to answer those questions and understand where you're coming from. I think there's also an understanding too, for all of the work, particularly that my staff do, is that we're not all doing new strategies. Sometimes that's done, and there's no other cost to it in relation to that matter. But what part of our role is also is reviewing and analysing and monitoring and saying, well, are we getting the kind of right outcomes? So what you have here is an annual report to say, well, how are we doing? whether that's as a council or across the sectors. It, you know, depends on the issues, and in this one, it's a bit of both. And are we getting the kind of outcomes that we want in Auckland? And if we're not, then how could we perhaps pivot? How could we use whether it's our resources, our money, our knowledge in a better way, in a more targeted way to get the outcomes that we want? So there's that kind of outcomes monitoring stuff also that is part of the role that we play, not just creating strategies and then kind of implementing them as well.
Well, that's a good answer, thank you. But I think I've got the point.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be answering this every time for the next 6 months, so.
Certainly don't. So we'll sort that out. Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you. My question's similar to the previous item as well. How have you or will you engage with the Seniors Advisory Panel on this work?
We're very fortunate to have 2 members of the Seniors Advisory Panel who have just come into the Ropu. So we have Professor Edwina Pio, who you saw earlier, and another member of the panel, Lee Featherston, who recently joined us. So we're really pleased to have their advice and expertise, and they've already taken a very active role and are supporting the planning of the age-friendly symposium and thinking about the areas of progress for 2024. Yeah.
Thank you. We have no more questions. Must have been an excellent report.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Liz, as well, for being there. And thank you for waiting too, Claire. We'll move to comments. I have no comments, so we'll move the recommendations. All in favour? Aye. Against? Yeah. Alrighty, we're going to go back to the beginning of the agenda to number 10, I think it is.